here's the team. And so the Venture Labs team, if you're whoever's here.
Hello,
Introduce yourself and tell me what
I'm
you do.
Carolina. I'm the project manager. Yeah,
I'm Leslie Duncan. I'm the operations director, so take care of anything from coordinating things, program requests, that kind of thing. And then Carolina is also in charge of most of our diversity and inclusion programming, so she's underselling herself a little bit with just being project manager, but she does that extraordinarily well as well.
I am Melinda, I'm the finance and reporting coordinator. I think most of you have heard from me. I'm the one who's working the metrics and trying to solve other problems as well. So nice to meet everybody.
I'm Dave. I'm the programs director, and I also mentor 3 or 4 companies.
I'm Floyd, I'm EIR, I do the intakes as well.
I think everybody knows Janelle. We've determined that she's actually the one that knows all of you too. So that she's actually a key person in the organization. And we have a couple of our co-op students over here as well. Do you want to say your name?
Oh, yeah. Hi, my name is Jordan.
Hi, I'm Serena. I'm marketing.
Are you guys from Simon Fraser or?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
And they also, if you're doing marketing power up projects, they're the students that do all the work to make everything awesome.
And it would be great because we've got a small enough group that why don't we just go around and tell us who you are and what company you're from. So, and maybe what floor you're on as well.
Robert Orr, Light 360 Innovations. I'm on the 11th floor, been there for a few years now. And we have a healthcare company focusing on men's urinary incontinence, Health Canada approved, and beginning to scale.
I'm Jessica. I'm co-founder of A&K Robotics. We're on the 11th floor, right next to Bob. So we keep him distracted with our robots. We do self-driving mobility for airports. We specifically help passengers with reduced mobility get from gate to gate. Oh, and our big news. So sorry, we're raising a second seed round, and I'm happy to announce that we were able to close our first tranche at the end of last year. For startups in the room in this market, but it is possible. So yeah, ask me about it.
Vivek, co-founder of Intuitive. It's going to be hard to follow that one up, but we basically build AI for zero waste and recycling. So our clients will mostly be Fortune 200 companies, and we measure waste. We basically make that metric measurable. We're just on the 12th floor on the other side over there, and this wall of the lab.
Excellent.
Mary Perez, CEO and co-founder of Nano Sentinel. We build a Lambda box for metal testing for the clean tech industry and the critical minerals industry as well. And yeah, I also live between here on the 12th floor and Burnaby Mountain, I guess.
I think we're assuming, and who's a friend, I think we're the last person to
Newest
join,
addition.
the newest
Yeah.
edition.
All right, main co-founder of a synthetic biology company called BioBoost. We're not on any of this floor in this building. We have our own lab in Puerto Rico. So we use a strain of yeast to produce a variety of proteins as biologics. So.
I'm Shotan Chan. I'm the CTO of Pioneer Robotics. So we're making the AI robots for the manufacturing industry to help improve the automation rate in any like the manufacturing industries.
Hi, so this is Adrian Zadouli. I'm the co-founder and the former CTO of current PPR and Croatia, but as you may know, Croatia was acquired last summer, so that merged with the company RxMX, and so we are now called RxPX. So and what we do is basically the Croatia sector, which is a provider social platform, like help life cycle organization with a platform to support their patients through different like services, maybe social services, and also help life cycle organization, particularly pharmaceutical company, with to help HCP with customized treatment plan to streamline for medication to streamline the care pathway for the patient.
Excellent. Thank you for coming in. You just ran it too. And Michael? Can we hear Michael?
Yes, it's me. Hi. Sorry, I can't really hear very well, unfortunately. So I'm sure there was a lot of really, really interesting companies that I just didn't hear very much about there. But and I'm sorry I can't be there in person to meet all of you. But I'm Michael Ferguson. I'm the CEO of Ayogo, and we apply behavioral economics to patient support programs, and in particular, our interest is in shared decision making as a model for patient involvement in preference-sensitive decisions across a range of conditions, from maternal health to oncology and nephrology.
Well, welcome, Michael, and that for next time, we'll make sure that we can actually, you can hear us. We'll make sure that we have a mic going around. So that's actually our fault, but we'll get better. Okay, next slide. Okay, this one. Okay, back to, there we go, stop. Okay, so some of you don't like, these are our executives and residents, and it's a growing team. We're gonna bring on some new executives in residence, and this is one thing that I'll talk about as we bring up those teams, is that we have some people here that act as lead EIRs, and we do actually have some specialists as well that can help you in certain areas. So for example, on this slide, many of you may have worked with Chris Stairs to do pro formas. He can also be a lead at EIR, and we have a couple of people that are doing marketing as well. We're looking to bring on someone in regulatory as well, and so there'll be some other EIRs. But basically, if there is some need that you have as a company, and we can actually at least bring on initial support through an EIR, let us know, because we can bring on those additional EIRs. I'm actually having conversations with some really experienced EIRs in the medical device area this week. And so we're hoping to grow that pool, because that's the key to our success, is to making sure that really the EIRs are not only there to support you, but also the network. And so if we have a few more EIRs, we expand our network as well. So next slide. Here we have our venture marketing team that can help you with Power Up, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Next. So here are our companies pre-January 2022, and we've been really active this year of adding additional companies, which is the next slide. There we go. We've got new companies, and really, so as you know, when I started, it was May of this year, and I don't even think I introduced myself, although I'm Leslie Esford, so backwards a little bit. But we, it was pretty quiet here in May. Very quiet. So some of the diehards were here and continue to be here all through COVID. And it's really nice to start to see Venture Labs coming back to life and coming with both having hybrid programs, so in-person meetings. It's actually really funny, because when I first got here, you could stand in the kitchen and no one was going to talk to you. Not only if they work here, and I think that was us starting to re-engage and figure out how we work in a post-COVID world, right? So we're going to try to figure out a way to start to introduce some of the new companies, so that you're going to get to know those companies and get to know each other as well. Next slide. So a year in review. This is actually we haven't actually sent out our year in review, but I think it's actually, you'd probably like to see some of these numbers. So great job, revenue earned by our portfolio companies, and this sets us aside of a lot of the other incubators that are pre-revenue. It's really nice to see engaged learners, mentoring hours. This is actually obviously core to our delivery, and that's why I said if there's additional support that you need, we can look at that, because I think having really experienced mentors, not just only leading the organization, but giving you that advice, even if you end up working with someone, having someone within Venture Labs gives you that trusted third-party advice to make sure that everything's going well. New jobs created, great job, guys. 98 new. It would have been great for 100. So next year, let's get those bigger numbers. Our workshops and events, we were really surprised when we actually looked at this. We put on a lot of workshops and events. The international innovation engagements. This was also something that was very new. It is a part of what we actually do, and we'll be doing more of it. But during COVID, obviously, we did not have that happen. one of our events, we had 8 different countries represented with very large companies. So for those of you who attended the BMW event, which was one that BMW came in and did a reverse pitch, we were able to have some of our companies do one-on-one meetings. We expect to be doing more of those types of activities because it's great to bring people here, and student placements as well. Lots of students engaged. Next slide. So we actually have a couple company highlights. Agaty introduced a new product, automating data entry from patient measurement devices to electronic EIRs, establishing strategic partnerships with patient measurement device manufacturers and electronic health records. We also have Taurus Medical with a pre-submission meeting with the FDA landing, a partnership with a strategic partner in the US. So we do have some company highlights. We already had one. Congratulations on your raising your funds, because I know how hard that is. Does anyone else have any highlights they'd like to share with the group? The highlights from 2022?
There were so many, you can't pick.
Zhao Ming's now here. You want to just introduce yourself real quick?
Okay, I'm founder and CTO of IHS. Yeah, I started the company 5 years ago. Joined Venture Labs about 3 years ago, just 2019 summer. Yeah. So it's been great with Venture Labs. So we have working with EIR, Kurt. So for a couple of years now. Yeah, so we grow from a few guys to now more than 20 people globally. We have an R&D center here. We also have a manufacturing and sales in China. So we're doing the haptic technology platform. So we do R&D on both hardware and software, providing solution and haptic interface from interfacing from physical with virtual world. We are commercialized surgical training systems, focusing on endoscopy for now. We have so coming from so last year have made significant revenue, first year of revenue, close to $2 million, and we're doing the GI endoscopy and also bronchoscopy surgical training. So this year we're looking at expanding our sales channels to more hospitals, medical schools, and also we're looking at providing other software solutions, training solutions to more variety of content software, content modules. So this year we're looking at least double our revenues, close to $5-6 million. We raised 2 rounds of financing last year, so combined $4 million.
So you have a lot to share. So I know you really filled up your space too.
We are trying to get more space.
We might have a solution for you. Okay, anyone else have anything that they'd like to share with us?
Sure. I have some news from 2022. I mean, honestly, the best part about 2022 is that it's over. But we did some good things last year, and in particular, we're really pleased with the results we're seeing in our maternal health program that we launched together with our partner New Moms in Chicago, helping as of now, our count is 300 moms, expectant moms or new moms who are experiencing poverty or homelessness, have successful pregnancies, and find themselves housing and get back into school at the same time.
That's great. Congratulations. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay, I'm sure that we'll if you feel like you, at some point you want to chime in, that's great. Next slide. Okay, upcoming events. So I'm not sure how many of you guys attended our office hours in December, but it kind of was a pilot for what we want to do, where we we bring in some speakers of key event, key topics. So December was,
IP and budgeting for pilot projects.
and then what we did afterwards is we brought on IRAP and Global Affairs, and then we had a number, we actually had lawyers coming out, you know, they were just lawyers everywhere. That particular event giving IP. And so there were, what we're going to be able to do is to bring in some experts that are external to Venture Labs that you can actually book a 15-minute meeting with to ask them a key question. And we're going to have an upcoming office hours in mid-February, and the panel discussions will also include details around the IP program. So if you, and I'm not sure how many people are aware of it, we have 2 IP programs that we're able to support companies with. The first is IP Assist through IRAP, and which allows you, so what you may not know on the other side of it is that the point that we have of the IP Assist for IRAP's program is the level 1, and they have 2 additional levels that allow you to build out an entire IP strategy. So the first one is 3 hours with an IP lawyer, with a lawyer that would match what your needs are, and we actually pay for the, well, IRAP pays. Technically, IRAP pays for the 3 hours from the lawyer's time, and then you can have additional support from IRAP to help you with your IP needs. So they're really helping support companies build out their IP strategy and their IP portfolio. The other program is one that's going to be announced and talked about, because the details are still being worked out, which is Elevate IP. So if you notice, there are a number of programs, and this is the first time I've seen it. I was with IRAP for 10 years, and that was something that we were trying to push, that an expensive line item for a startup company is IP, and is so important to your long-term success. And, you know, fortunately, law firms will often defer some of those expenses, but it's still a very expensive part. And so it looks like the government of Canada has now heard that, and now there are a number of programs that are going to be targeted around helping you build out that IP strategy and supporting those activities. Okay, the next one is the Garibaldi webinars upcoming, but we don't have the.
It'll be in early February.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So those are always good to attend to learn about financing. Bantech monthly investor event meetings. It's the first Wednesday afternoon of the month, and ask us for invitations to see the pitches so we can get you into a Bantech event. The key part about Bantech is the pitches are good, but the other part is it's actually a networking opportunity, and that was key to office hours as well. I would say the value of office hours came with the networking that happened afterwards. So a lot of the people that were in the community came, and it was an opportunity for you to have impromptu discussions. Okay, next slide. Just to remind everybody, so I've talked about IP Assist. We also have the Marketing Power Up, so our 2 marketing EIRs, you can work with them with excellent co-op students. I don't remember having that word excellent. These guys are absolutely fantastic. I'm just giving them. So, and we.
I put in the excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
And we've actually had a couple, we have ongoing co-op students that are actually part of the group. So that can help create a marketing project to build your next goals, a one-pager, web page review, and social media. So all of those things are things that you need that we actually have that support, and both Tony and Lynn can help them through that, as well as Vivian on our team. Next. Okay, Experience Ventures. So this is an opportunity to actually get 80 hours of a student's time for free. And they can work on a particular project. Students, I found that students are actually really energized, and you can get, they also can, they're really well, they want the experience, and this program we ran somewhat of a pilot last year. It was a smaller size of Experience Ventures. And students really wanted that work experience. And so they came to it and they were engaged. And so if you're interested in actually having students working on a particular project or a few students working on those projects, Leslie, if you want to maybe.
Yeah, so basically there's different ways to work with it. So one of them is just an 80-hour placement with a student. You can have multiple placements in your company as long as we have unique students. So you can have a couple of them, or, and this will be running next year too. There's like team challenge approaches too. So if you have a project that would require more than one student or something hackathon-ish, or you just want to get ideas or interdisciplinary, there's different allotments of time. So there's 16-hour placements, there's 40-hour placements, there's 80-hour placements. So for the group challenges. And the benefit is that they apply to us and we sort of curate and match. So you basically say, you know, we're looking for marketing support, or we're looking for, you know, development support. Here's the skill set sort of that we need broadly. Students apply and tell us broadly what they're interested in, and then we curate a match. You have a chance to meet the students, interview them, make sure that it's a fit, realizing that this is, you know, a free student project. They may not be exactly what you're looking for, but is this something you can work with? And then we do all of the paperwork. So it's really sort of the easiest access to students that you're going to get. So there's still placements for this fiscal year, and then it'll run into next year as well. So if you're interested and need student help, let us know.
Because we do actually have a couple organizations and companies that are looking at big group projects where they're bringing in a number of students to work on those projects. So we have that ability to do that. The other investor pitch practice, I think I'm going to turn over to Floyd for that one.
Sure, yeah. We've done a number of times now that we organize a panel with a number of expert EIRs to go through someone's pitch and provide detailed feedback. And we have a number of EIRs that have that kind of background in terms of, like, you know, getting financing and stuff like that. You know, some of them are part of VCs as well. So that's available if you want it. Happy to go through your pitch, and I'm sure we can assist.
And I think the Garibaldi Capital guys are also happy to work with companies. One of the key things that they focus on is making sure you're going to the right investors. So eFund has got their session downstairs right now, and I think maybe 3 of the companies here fit eFund. The other companies that are here are more mature than eFund. So it's just knowing where to go for finance.
Actually, that's a good point. I like to maybe highlight, like, a lot of companies are like, oh, I need money. I go to VCs, and then they spend 6 months talking to VCs. Whereas VCs might not ever invest in early stage companies, and they're really bad at communicating that up front. So you can really waste a lot of time doing this.
And that's where getting to the right VCs and obviously too, a warm introduction is always the best way to get into a VC as well, because a lot of times they'll listen and they're going by the relation. It's all relationship based. So we can talk about that. And I mentioned before, topic-specific EIR input, we're always open to that and bringing in expertise that you need to help grow your company. So the last line is that we're here to help, and that's really what you should view us as, and that's why we made sure that you know, you've got to know the rest of the team, because if you see one of us, you can always say, hey, I'm thinking about this, or, you know, so don't hesitate. And I'm here on site Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I tend to try to walk around, and it's not just because I'm lost. Although that was the first couple weeks, so there was a little bit of that. But yeah, so you know, we really want to be talking to you actively, and the other part is that we are currently going through our strategic review for the organization, and so we will be actively reaching out to individual companies that have been here for a while. And because what we are currently doing doesn't necessarily mean what we're going to be doing in the future. And our goal here is to make the companies that are part of our Venture Lab community more successful, faster. And so if there are other things that we can do, and that's why we will be talking to you one-on-one, because it's often better to have those conversations one-on-one, where we actually say what worked, what didn't work. But what I would say is we're not married to anything, except the one thing that we would probably say is the EIRs. That's the only thing that I think is truly the secret sauce, is to make sure you have the right EIR support for the companies. But everything else is we'll do more or less of, right? Okay, next slide. I guess that was the slide that was supposed to be on. So what we'd also like to do is that we did talk about the town halls. We are exploring is there an opportunity for the companies to get together for purpose? So if ever we're gonna kind of bring it together, if we're doing it like a CEO roundtable, what would that look like? What would be we would want to make sure that there is value added there for you, because we know your time is precious. And anytime you actually make a choice of participating in an event, you can't actually then participate. And we may make it greater than the C-level, like more C-level rather than CEO, but that was the one part of the survey that no one answered. So there's, I guess, one question is, we don't want a CEO roundtable, which is again, an acceptable answer. Or if we did, is it what structure do
We also only, there were very limited survey answers, so
Okay,
it's not a
okay.
representative
Okay.
survey.
But I personally, I would love to bring, one of the things that I think often is helpful is bringing other perspectives, not from the region here. So, someone potentially from Boston or San Francisco, or from a region or bringing in, again, experts in a special area as well, whether it be leadership, whether it be team building, whatever those types of things that are there. So I guess the first question is, would a CEO roundtable or C-level roundtable be something that you'd be interested in?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if we did that, frequency of those CEO roundtables, we already determined that town hall is only twice a year. Would we want to have it, quarterly, twice a year as well? Like, what do we think?
I guess that just, what are we trying to get out of it? And then it might have an impact on frequency, right?
Okay, so what we want to me, so that would be, I guess I could turn it on you, but
Sure.
but what I think we want to get out of it is okay, so what I think what is good to get out of it is, one, I think there's a benefit of getting to know each other and having that greater network, so a sense of community. The other part of it is that you as leaders, it's a pretty isolating role. And so it's an opportunity for you to, like, often we're focused on supporting those that are work for us or work with us. And so there's not really that opportunity for that support at the higher level. So continued support and almost a trusted network that you can actually, there are things that as a CEO that you only experience once you've been a CEO.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there's a lot of people that never want to be a CEO again. So that type of idea where you can actually look at those opportunities or challenges that you're actually experiencing as you grow your team. So really focused on supporting your management team.
Trying to do a little bit like an ASTAC or some of the CEO roundtables, like a roundtable type model. Like there's 2 or 3 in the city or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay. That's fine.
But basically building, but we're a part of it is actually building the community of venture labs too, and that we are really focused on science-based ventures. And so, there is, again, great to cross-pollinate, but there are some specific challenges that come with being a science-based ventures. Sure. Part of it is the length of time that you're in the trenches till you get that overnight success that happens.
Yeah.
9 or 13 years down the road,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So just getting that energy from, the combined group and even, building that network.
So I mean, if that's a goal, I mean, you'd probably be reasonably frequently. I'm not sure about monthly, but bi-monthly or something.
Okay.
If that's what you're trying to get to.
And are there topics that are of particular interest to you?
Well, I mean, you could use it as a bit of a hook in terms of like bringing in a particular, I mean, I was an ASTEC for years.
Okay.
And so, we would bring in a speaker
I can't remember if they were quarterly or monthly. They might have been monthly, but like 8 times a year or 9 times a year or something like that. And so there'd be somebody that there'd be some speaker brought in that had some topic that had general appeal. And then you had, but that was maybe a third of the meeting. And the other 2/3 was the CEOs basically giving updates and then trying to solve some issues.
Okay.
So that's not bad. So you could have HR issues one year, you could have, leasing, you're looking at new leasing space, so what do you have to figure out on that? Could be.
Excellent.
That's not a bad way of creating something.
And you notice even as we structured this table, the meeting today is put into a round, like kind of a round table format. Because I think sitting around the table and having those conversations with that group, and we would set some ground rules as well. Because obviously, you want to feel like it's a safe environment to be able to share certain things that only are shared within that group. And so, because there are some things that are really difficult to talk about when we talk about HR issues, for instance, as an example. So it sounds like that's a positive that we'll set. Does anyone else have any comments on a roundtable?
I think also interfacing with maybe beyond the Vancouver community can be powerful. So for example, something that comes to the top of my head is like there's Next Canada, for example, in Toronto, Montreal, everywhere else, CDL. If there's some form of interfacing that happens at these roundtables, that might be broader, might be once a quarter or something like that, but it just opens everybody from their end here to their experiences, which might be very different. I feel like sometimes in Vancouver we're in a silos. And if there's, especially if you're an early stage company and you only have inputs from this ecosystem, it's often inaccurate of the real world, right? So I think it would really help to have that as well. Yeah.
I completely agree with that statement. It's almost like we live on an island.
Yeah.
And times where we don't even see the outside world.
Yeah.
Somebody else has turned up?
Sorry, I'm just looking at friendly.
That's my co-founder.
Oh, cool. Good.
I owe it. Anything else you'd like to see Venture Labs doing that we're not doing right now?
Right, it's a specific question.
Yes.
I think a number of the companies here make hardware, right? They're hardware producers. Are any of you looking for, we'll call it facilities for making short production runs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. How many? So 3, so some 4. We're getting companies at Venture Connection, other places that have a similar issue. So it's not something you can solve in a week, but we're more and more interested in not a maker space, but something where you could be building, 6 months worth of units. If it's small, maybe you're building 1,000. If they're big, like you guys, you might be building 10 or 12 at a time. So we're just, it's interesting. So we'll follow up about that and see what we can figure out.
So definitely reach out to Dave because we're hoping we're bringing it to the attention of government right now. And so he's going to be probably reaching out to make sure that we have some specifics around it, because we've identified there's 2 things: wet lab space from the life science people, and then we've identified this real need, and it keeps coming at us like weekly. And so we're actually, wet lab space is a lot more difficult to deal with. So we're going with the least path of resistance. So we're starting with this, but we'll be talking to the various government organizations. And I think there's an opportunity to kind of look to build something like that.
I think if there's also relationships with manufacturers or mill workers or whatever it is, that actually have their own facility. Because beyond a certain point, like once you get past prototyping, you don't want that on your side, right? So, well, at least for us. So we often work with professional manufacturers that have all the machines, equipment, everything, and then we'll give them the orders. I know it was notoriously difficult to find one that was taking orders when we got into connection with them. And it looks like pretty much everybody's either backlogged or has a lot of leverage. So it's hard to basically say, okay, we're going to give you medium-sized orders. They're going to be like, nope, we have MOQs of say 200. It's like, we don't need that yet, right? So I think if there's those kind of producers out there, it would be cool to have relationships, because if we went through that, I'm sure other people will.
It's a common issue.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, if you're a supplier, you want a reasonable size order. It's
Yeah,
very
fair,
logical, but it's also a number of those companies either shipped a lot of the work to different parts of the world.
Exactly.
Not a lot of it is done here, and government is like, oh yeah, we need to worry about supply chain, but it's like, we need to go to them and say, this is what you should actually do.
Yeah, the low volume production is really challenging.
Yeah.
Really challenging.
And we know
You
that
have to build
BCA,
some parts before a few years ago locally. We build it like single parts, handmade, many hours, $3,000 part.
Yeah.
We end up doing smallings in China, $200.
yeah.
Exactly. It's
Or-
1/10 the cost.
Or even if there's an intermediate product you can have made here and you can get the supply.
Yeah.
A lot of it is getting the uncertainty. So we'll
because
probably come around asking for details so
We
that we
will,
can go and try to go and say, well, how do we repair this problem?
Because right now, one of the sensitive words with the government is supply chain. So you get their attention immediately if you actually suggest, and it's not even a suggestion. I mean, how many of us as even consumers have heard that term supply chain? And some of them I believe, some of them I'm actually starting to not believe, because it doesn't even make sense that there would be a problem with that particular supply chain. But that's another story. Do you have any other specific?
Not right now.
I had one and then now I knocked it out of my.
I have one suggestion. So for CEO roundtable, I'll be very interested if, from my perspective, if bringing some like common shared topic, like for example, how to engage on big giants, right? So we were fortunately approached by many giants last year for the interest in collaborating with us with our haptic technology. Yeah, so whether it's in the US or Canada or in China or in South Korea. So challenges that they're like these big giants, they're like itself is a kingdom, right? So it's hard to navigate through, and it's end up wasting a lot of time. So it's topics like that, right? How you engage your technology to either in some level of partnership or, like for example, Sony's haptics was technology was partnered with immersion, right? So we want to do similar thing, right? But obviously we're not that scale, but we could do that better. But it just like it's hard to navigate through. But not everyone have a very like senior COO right there to help you to go through. But like, let's say you don't have that resource, how we tackle that, right? So you don't want to hit like almost like say Microsoft like a government entity there. So what do? You're talking to 10 different people, giving you 10 different perspectives, and then so not getting anything.
To add to it, I guess, extend out to the topic of merger acquisitions, right? And well, from our space, once we were down in Seattle, joining the Life Science Washington, and they frequently got the companies like Merck, their own scouting teams coming out to talk about exactly how they work with startup companies, how they acquire their technologies, what's the workflow. So if you get experts from those departments, from those big companies come in and have a webinars, that'd be pretty helpful.
I did one with Amazon,
Yeah.
which was pretty effective. Like that was for a subset that didn't affect one of the companies I'm mentoring, but so it was an Amazon, Google.
Amazon, Microsoft, Google didn't make it at the
Okay,
end,
okay.
but CGI and then SAP.
Yeah.
And there are other large companies. So I think one of our models is we have office hours where we'll have like a webinar, which is a little bit general. And then we'll say, if there are companies that are interested in this and your needs are very different than these guys or somebody else like that, we'll try to bring in somebody who really understands the market who could help you with that. And go into very individualized, customized program and assistance. But it'll take a while to produce that, but the community around us, the big companies are very interested in helping out. That's the nice thing.
like when we had BMW here, they were basically here to say we're open for business, right? And this is how you work with us. But I completely understand where you're coming from because I live in the life sciences space and they're all different in how you actually, and if you happen to land on the right person who can navigate that engine and but what I will say, anything with a multinational is a longer time frame.
Right.
Yeah, they, even when they make a decision, they're still slow. You know, because the urgency is on your side, not on their side.
Well, even though they approached us, it's not we
Yeah.
approached them, right? Still,
Yeah.
like, they might be 2 meetings in, we think they're serious, because they have like an army of people attending the meetings. But still, like, at the end of the day, after a few follow-up and start to be slow, and then it's oftentimes like really hitting it kind of roadblocks right after.
Either they're just doing R&D at their expense.
Yeah, there's lots of stories where basically, oh, would love it, and then they drag stuff out, and then 8 months later, there's a patent filing from Merck that happened to be a lot like your product.
So that's actually, I mean, a very good point. I think we need to, we have been talking about bringing in some programming around this,
Yeah.
but is best practices around it and understanding, you know, really understanding the person that you're actually gonna go into. Because we're in another conversation and somebody was going in engagement with a multinational. Someone else in the room had worked with them before and said, oh yeah, they're really good. They're on the level. Like, so they're not every company is created equal. And it's the same as like, you don't necessarily take the money from everybody. You know, you got to find that right partner. And so that whole partnership strategy is something that I think there's that side of it as well. But I think that's actually a great topic and we could probably do it more generally too.
Absolutely.
And have some people that have actually, it'd be great to have, you know, maybe a couple of examples from get the multinational, but also have people that have worked with that multinational as well, right? Because it's from both sides, it's a very different experience. But I know people that have had multiple offers and choose their decision is not necessarily the highest bid, but the one that they can work best with. That match. So that's a great suggestion.
I think in a general sense, if that helps at all, the aim of the game usually is to reduce the number of people in the room, not increase.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of navigating in terms of decision-making process, who can make what decision in what context and what's that process like, so you can puzzle the best way through, as opposed to letting them do it.
I think another topic that might help some people who is if there's again a discussion, roundtable discussion on if anybody has had experiences with AR and these same large companies, you know, getting large orders and then, you know, basically going longer than their AR periods, which again for them is not a big deal. For startups, cash flows are sensitive. So, and especially for hardware companies, the costs are upfront. So you're kind of building and then waiting for AR. So I think AR could be another topic. Obviously, there's the standard, you know, pieces that accountants will reach out and this and that. But if there's other ways in which things can be escalated, that is standard practice.
Well, there's a
that could be
government
another
wrap. If it's outside, there's outside suppliers, you can get some government
If
support.
it's outside Canada, EDC will guarantee
Can do
it
that
to
as
about
well.
80%. So it's easy to connect with those guys.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's like 1% or something.
Sure.
But it just means you can have certainty in cash flow, which is really valuable.
Yeah. See.
And also helps them making, like, they will help put things in place. And so, you know, having the government of Canada being involved in that is not as easy to push around as
Yeah.
you.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, EDC is a really good organization as you grow internationally.
Okay.
And again, recognizing that we probably don't have a large domestic market, so many people
Yep.
are going international. And the other part too is always make sure you're working with the trade commissioner service. So again, it depends on what country, but in a lot of countries, having the trade commissioner service can be very beneficial. You know, I've been brought companies places where the consul general or the ambassador shows up and it just brings everything to another level, right? And some countries, The US are not impressed by that at all. So the US that does it, but in other countries in Europe and in Asia, having the ambassador as part of that, it just says the government of Canada is behind you, even though they will not say that, but that's really what it's ready to do. But looking at services and bringing in those making sure that you've got that support, and we just helped you.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Anything else?
One minor thing, just, I don't know if any of you guys ever end up in Toronto or other places in Canada or maybe other locations. We do collaborate a bit with some of the accelerators that are there or some of the other agencies. So one of our companies, Hot Desk out of the DMZ in downtown Toronto,
Yeah.
gives you an office and a boardroom and all that stuff. And some of there's somebody coming from Montreal on Friday who's got a hot desk here and stuff. So if you're ever on the road and you're interested, even if we don't have the relationship, we can make a call.
Oh, the one thing I also forgot, which is totally not related to that, but you'll notice the doors went up between, now that's not to make it more difficult, it's so that now this can be actually used. It blocks off, so during the day, the door is likely to be open, so we don't run into it. But at night, you can then have events in this space. It just opens up that space and at the same point protects you as the company as well, to make sure that people can't access the company spaces. Anything
All right.
else?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Which is just that when I heard, Leslie, that you were going to take on this current role, I was beside myself, thrilled by it. And, I don't know how much experience the other people that are in the room have working with you, but, I've been working together on the Innovate BC board for quite a long time. And for those who haven't had the opportunity before now to work closely with Leslie, she is one of the most effective, focused, diligent, hardworking, intelligent people I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And I think it's going to be it's an exciting time for Venture Labs. And, this programming that you're putting in place is fantastic. These discussions are really good. And I just want to put my hand up and say, huzzah.
Thank you, Michael. I'm blushing at this point, I'm not sure. So thank you so much for that. And I obviously, Michael's been a great, though we've known each other for a long time, and the truth is that when this job came up, it was written for me, is that I'm as excited to be here because to work with companies energizes me, and we are really truly here to help you. And so you'll see some changes as the year goes on. We're really hoping we can do more and more to make sure that your companies are successful.
If I can just piggyback, Leslie, whatever Michael said ×2. Actually, I wish I was there in person. He always says things better than I do, so I can just say totally agree.
Well,